Okay, Storm and Cat, Dog and Cat, you are good to start.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2025 November Harrisburg Mayoral Debate. I'm Cat Combs.
And I'm Dogcat, and we will be the moderators for this debate.
All right. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to answer each question.
Rebuttals will take place after all the questions we ask. The candidates will take no more than 2 minutes to respond.
Our first candidate here will be Mr. Robert.
Our second candidate will be Mr. Paul.
We do not have our final candidate, but before we start, we are going to have all candidates introduce themselves to the audience and explain their platforms. Storm, you may go first.
Can you hear me well?
Yep.
Awesome. As you know, I'm Paul Volkov. I am currently running for the November 2025 elections. I do want to say I appreciate everyone that is here, including Officer here. I hope that he does well in this debate, and I hope to see him on election day. For the kind of standard that we're setting for our campaign, it's pretty obvious. I asked a lot of people, some that were in the police force, some that were in firefighting. They didn't, when I asked them what was the kind of some issues that they had, whether it was in role play, whether it was in their duties, they didn't give me something that was over the top or something that executives are, very small to deal with. They gave me very minimal issues that they had. This can relate to law enforcement duties, or such as different laws, or even they even told me about yielding. Our focus is not to deal with over the top areas that we can't even fix or to go past our boundaries. We want to fix everything that we can, including starting with small stuff, where that be implementing ordinances for Harrisburg or trying to coordinate with law enforcement and handle more of the move over law or Paul Miller's law. There's so much that needs to be done. And because there's so little, most people look beyond it. We want to stretch out our hand to everyone in Harrisburg and nearby townships and help them out any way we can. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, officer. Go ahead. The question was if you could introduce yourself to the audience and explain your platform. I will be reading out his chat. Hello, so I am Robert A. I have experience within PARP, such as being HICOM in Lifeline Emergency Medical Services, an active law enforcement officer in DCSO, and he's currently in the Harrisburg Bureau of Fire. I have great plans for Harrisburg, such as getting crime rates down, which is a major issue in other towns. new jobs, better budget, and best of all, more events. That is all. I wish Stormtrooper good luck.
With that being said, we're going to go to our first debate question of the night. First question is going to go to Mr. Paul. What would you do differently about the previous administration's crime rates, hikes, and how would you combat the rise in crime?
So, to be honest, um, the past administration is probably what's led to little interest in these elections. A lot of times when I spoke with people, most people said they didn't really care about voting because there wasn't much change. And with that, with almost zero change from the past administration, whether they were working behind the scenes or not, they never made any statements on that. There was always, I wouldn't say possibly an increase in crime rates, but there was no change whatsoever or even a chance or attempts to combat it. We saw the formation of some agencies or task force, such as the FIST or the federal groups handling it, such as the FBI. And even then, there was scrutiny there. Whether that was needed or not is not even related to the question. For me, to handle crime rates is a lot more community policing. That's a first part that we need to start on. You don't see that a lot. You'll see officers going for the bare minimum, making an arrest where they can, and not just because they want to, just because they're able to. Sorry, I'm out of breath. But we need to make sure that, even for, minor offenses, that we're not going to the fullest extent if it's not necessary. A lot of times people will try to make the most random stops. And while they may have some leeway that they can or need to, a lot of times, people don't need a ticket for an honest mistake. So to be more lenient on those who need it, especially from people that have low incomes, would be greatly beneficial. I think we need to teach officers to be a little bit more humane, I would say, and those within that field as well. But as well as organize events, I know SFR has contacted me previously in order to arrange that a little bit, and I think that would be greatly beneficial for both law enforcement, businesses, and other areas. To combat the crimes, though, in a more dramatic sense, I think we should be targeting areas that have seen it. The jewelry store by the medical center in Harrisburg has seen a lot more activity, uh, and that is extremely, extremely violent. They use firearms in most crimes, and I'm not thinking about restricting firearms. I mean, people can own as much as they can, or if they want to. I think we should more so survey different crime areas and act on it when we can and organize evidence when we can't to get those warrants out, to get them arrested, and to get them tried. I think that's a bit for me.
All right. Mr. Robert, same question goes for you. How would you what would you do yeah. What would you do about the previous administration's crime rate hikes and how would you combat the rise in crime?
Okay, so first of all, I will talk to other LEO departments such as SHPD, PSP, etc. Again, as what Stormtrooper said to the jewelry store, a lot of activity there. I've seen hardly no cops respond, if not only one, which would be needed if the person is still in there armed with a illegal firearm such as a AK, etc. I've seen local PD not respond to other calls, but mainly panics and hostage situations. I have also seen CPD and DCSO, sorry, cover HPD JD while HPD responds to those calls. A lot of officers should go on foot patrol to talk to the community. That is all from me. All right, on to the next question, starting with Storm. For your second question, based on your current view of the city, what would be your first action to improve it?
All right, sorry. So kind of some of the issues that I see personally is more so kind of you know, the increase in violent crimes is just dramatic. I think, and I can't speak for anyone, but at least for me, during my time as law enforcement and even as security, a lot of crimes that I do see being committed, whether successfully or not, is violent and involve firearms. It is just honestly a violent area for a lot of people. I actually was handling a minor or juvenile earlier today with a DCIS detective with the Dauphin County Sheriff's Office, and just to see someone who could be harmed and with so much crime around, it is very heavy on the heart. I think we honestly just need to just work on our image. Honestly, we need to focus on the crime rates and to handle that, and that will definitely allow us to prosper more if we are taking out some of the heavy hitters. That is ruining the city and its surrounding areas. Can you repeat the question? Because I think I got it wrong.
Of course.
Okay.
The question was based on your current view of the city, what would be your first action to improve it?
Right, I was missing the action. Apologies. To be honest, I definitely want to, like I said earlier, increase surveillance on crime areas. That will honestly take out the major issue that I was speaking of, violent crimes. But in other ways, we can probably limit people with their firearms. There's plenty of people who do get into custody, whether it was with or without resistance, and they are tried for violent crimes to get back out on the streets, and somehow, whether it's valid or not, they have a firearm. And while we're able to open carry or to possess a license to conceal carry, I think we should be, and they do obviously for the conceal license, but we should definitely be restricting people with the weapons that they have. And when I say that, I mean past criminals that somehow have possession of a firearm for after having like firearm based charges. We should definitely be looking into that. I don't know if something can be done. Definitely some increased surveillance onto them to make sure that they're not going to make the same mistakes they did after getting a second chance. That's what I would believe would be need to be done. Um, but for me to actually do something about that issue, I'd honestly just focus on, providing more funding for, the investigative divisions that most of these departments have. Ensure that they are well trained and well armed, or at least equipped.
Okay, thank you very much. Officer, same question. I'll read it out again. Based on your current view of the city, what would be your first action to improve it? Get officers to the areas where crime rates are high. Make sure federal departments are helping local police departments with the high crime rate. If needed, get DCSO and CPD to cover HPDJD and get CID to help out HPD to get the mafias down, which is a major part of the crime rates. That is all for me.
All right, that brings us into our third question of the night. With constant road work seems to be taking place on Freedom Avenue regularly, this causes accidents. With that, how would you ensure the safety of drivers and workers within the work zones? First question goes to Mr. Paul.
Could you please rephrase or repeat the first section of the question? I couldn't really hear for a little bit.
All right. With constant road work seeming to be taking place on Freedom Avenue regularly, this has caused accidents. How would you ensure the safety of the drivers going through the work zone and the safety of the workers?
All right, I appreciate that. This is pretty much no brainer to me. Like I was saying earlier, a lot of people were having issues with those yielding, where it's emergency services or not, and also like people on their phones or Paul Miller's law, which tries to limit that by hanging out infractions for it. Just having your phone out while driving. While yes, the increased construction around different areas has led to some delays and stuff. It is definitely on the drivers to ensure that they are operating, properly and safely. I mean, they technically, as some people would say, they're operating something that could be considered a weapon. So I definitely be wanting to focus on the drivers mostly, ensuring that ensuring that they're not driving under influence, that they are paying attention on the road and not their screens, and just kind of organize things with both for urban and also state agencies on setting up checkpoints or increase presence around work in places. That way, if you see red and blue lights, you're more likely to slow down than yellow. A lot more people get not necessarily scared, but they start acting right when they see that. So having law enforcement around would be great, but ensuring that our construction crews are being safe around their work environment as well. We don't want people running out in front of the road, whether they're wearing reflective or not. That's not going to protect you from a car if they just keep on going. They need to ensure that they're also being safe, that they're also trained, and that they're also being cautious. But definitely just crack down on people who are driving recklessly, sorry, and to ensure that they are actually paying attention. So probably coordinate with law enforcement. That's all.
All right, Mr. Robert, same question goes to you. Constant roadwork seems to be taking place on Freedom Avenue regularly. This has caused accidents. With that, how would you ensure the safety of drivers and workers throughout the work zone?
Talk to HPD to set up radar to make sure drivers are following the set speed limit for that work zone. If needed, get PSP to help out with that. If PSP can't help out, HPD can work with DCSO and or CPD. Get PennDOT to set up traffic control. If PennDOT can't do traffic control, HPD can take over to do that for a small bit, such a hour or two. That is all for me. Okay, for your guys' fourth question, starting with Storm, if you can recall, but there is a heavy controversy surrounding federal forces in our community, and there continues to be a bit of a pushback from the community. How would you comment on that original situation and the pushback that carries on today? Do you support the federal forces or do you think differently?
To be honest, there is definitely some, reason why there is scrutiny against them. Originally when they started rolling out the task force a couple months ago, I had issues with some marshals. Uh, I'm not going to state kind of the issues I had, but I would say that it was pretty reasonable to see why there was so much scrutiny. With the reduced amount of federal agents within the county, I I believe that with proper surveillance or you know over like trying to find the word, but oversight. Sorry, um, with them to ensure that they're not doing anything they shouldn't be. They're not abusing their power. They're not driving recklessly or endangering people. Then they're just honestly some people who are doing their jobs. If you hear about a random police officer, I'm not going to state any agencies, but if you hear from a random police officer driving recklessly around all the road and stuff, or endangering people, or just stepping out of line, taking over from stuff, to honestly just be terminated or suspended. We should expect that same thing from federal. Ensure that their agents or their officers are acting accordingly. And from my current viewpoint, I believe that, again, with the reduction of how many are in the county nowadays, I think they are doing a lot better than they did a month ago. And, currently, as working with them myself, I honestly would say that, they're doing a lot better than they did before. Again. And right now, I'd just say that, just ensure that you're not obstructing, or, you show them the same respect as other law enforcement officers. Federal laws can be a nuisance for some, but it's there for a reason. And that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to enforce it. If they're not doing it, that's just their own problem. So, in short, I would just say, as long as they're doing their jobs, they're not causing a nuisance, and they're not obstructing any other agencies or, public life, they should be able to do their jobs without little to no scrutiny. If they do act up, there's a reason why there's oversight, and they should act on that. If they don't, that's a problem. That's all for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Same question for you, officer. I'll repeat it again, if you can recall, but there was a heavy controversy surrounding federal forces in our community, and there continues to be a bit of pushback from the community. How would you comment on that original situation and the pushback that carries on today? Do you support the federal forces, or do you think differently? I do support the feds, but only for some parts, such as helping local police departments such as the Harrisburg PD, only only supporting them. Sorry, I didn't get that last part of the question. If you could repeat it. Helping out local police department, mm, mainly Dogcat or whoever was speaking.
Okay.
So I feel like feds could support PD when HPD needs it, or if a high risk warrant is on. I know a very major warrant for a group is a high risk. That is all for me.
For our next question, with the addition of the new bank opening up in the city of Harrisburg, how would you increase the economy and bring more businesses to the city? Mr. Paul, you can take the floor.
To be honest, I don't know a whole lot within economics. I can't really say what I would do. I know that, I would like to thank them for funding this debate and, for actually endorsing me recently. But they, are definitely working to bring more innovative, stuff that we haven't seen in this county for a while now. They, like I said, were offering, the mayor's office to aid with prices for housing and such. So I'd definitely be able to take on that role if elected or whoever. And I definitely want to use that power to ensure that, people are getting a fair price. There's a lot of people who, will not be able to afford to live in these homes or in homes in general because of their overpricing, and that's a major issue. Currently, they don't have much support right now other than housing and a couple other things. Over time, I think they'll and I hope that they, you know, use it properly. But I definitely want to ensure that businesses and the general public can use those funds given to them accordingly with this system. And I hope that they'll be able to use it a lot easier with me being able to help them out in an advisory role. That's all.
Okay, Mr. Robert, same question goes to you. I will repeat it. With the addition of the new bank opening up in the city of Harrisburg, how would you increase the economy and bring more businesses to the city?
With the new bank opening, it will help a lot making jobs, keeping money flowing to the correct people. It will help mainly with people coming in looking for new jobs. Due to PennDOT making new roads, PennDOT needs workers, which means people are going to apply for that job. That would support PennDOT. New roads also means new buildings, so companies will be making buildings. Buildings means more people. Those people will be getting jobs such as working for TMI, Three Guys, etc. That is all. Alright, For your sixth question, obviously starting with Storm, if you were mayor, how would you plan to interact with the community? For example, like listening to the community or taking requests?
Quick note, I may not be able to finish the seventh question. I have to go soon. But to be honest, to interact with the community, it'd honestly be able to, of course, events, which I'll get on in a bit, but honestly, just providing support. Uh, I like I did earlier, with talking with several people for my campaign. I asked them questions and stuff. They gave me some responses, but they also asked me questions. I would definitely want to be able to host more events, even minor, to allow them to be able to ask what my office is doing or what the office is doing, and also to kind of be able to do more support for them as well. Civilian operations, they have a lot of businesses that go unheard, whether that is on the business owners for not, doing more or not. It's honestly a shame to see so many open their doors and close within a month. I definitely want to do more events with them and to be able to support them by, bringing more people in, by showing how much they are doing and what they offer. It's not just, something that is exciting, every single time you want to apply for something. It's something that you can do, something that you can help out with. I definitely want to do more events with them, such as expos and such, or hiring events. But I definitely want to be able to talk with the community more, allow them to know what we're doing, and to kind of also be able to ask them what they would want to see. Because I really do want to focus on a lot of smaller things first and work up forward to avoid any obstructions. Because the higher we go, more restrictions we'll have. Um, so I think we should just mainly just focus on what the community wants and also what they'll need to allow, Harrisburg and surrounding townships to be able to thrive, both within the public and with the businesses as well. That's all for me.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to repeat the question, this time for Officer. If you were mayor, how would you plan to interact with the community? For example, listening or taking requests. I would walk around to the businesses to get people's feedback and what they want to see in the future, such as going to DMI and Rick and John's. If needed, I would make sure FD, DOT, LEO would get opinions, making sure everyone has an opinion. That is all for me.
All right. If all candidates can please stay for our last question of the night. For our last question of the night, with the mix of renewable and traditional energy sources being in place in the city, will be the what will be the best secure future energies needed within our city?
To be honest, that's a very unique question. In all honesty, green is very good. Uh, I think that's going to get me a lot of people to say, well, that's pretty obvious. But, I've worked around our state parks for almost 2 years. I will be honest, a lot of people will park, go visit the park, sorry, with vehicles. Um, and yeah, of course, they're allowed to, it's legal, and that doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong. But we should definitely be focusing more to reduce, emissions and such, uh, in order to, less affect the environment. I'm not saying everyone should drive an electric car. That's more for the federal government to implement something like that. But I believe we should more so kind of reduce the amount of emissions that's going around and probably do more carpooling. I think that would be great to do. I know CAT, the transportation service, Capital Area Transportation Service, I think, they have a lot of buses, they have a lot of employees, and they have very few that get on said buses. Um, you know, Having a lot more people use their transports and their transit systems, and they have a lot of routes they can go around. I think that would be able to reduce emissions. Um, but there's some need for the traditional uh, plants and such. We have 3 Mile, who is working hard uh, and have recently partnered with Black Water in order to secure that and such. I think that, supporting them as well to allow them to get further employees will be able to keep our city up and running and allow us to be able to work more efficiently. But to be honest, I can't really say much more about that with that question. I need to do further research in that, to be honest. Um, but yeah, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Mr. Robert, same question will go to you. With the mix of renewable energy sources, what will be the best secure energy source for the future within the city?
Renewable is the better option as it's going to make sure natural resources is not being depleted. It can also help save energy. Carpooling will also help make sure less cars are out on the road for for a clear sunny day. Make sure High Rock Park can see more stars than what you can see due to the highway being near it. That is all for me. We are now going to be moving on to the rebuttals. So each candidate can ask each other questions. 2 minutes. The candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. Uh, Either one of you want to volunteer to start?
Sure. I am curious. Kind of what is your thoughts on kind of the ordinances that you may want to implement? There's many that, of course, they help with laws, but I definitely want to see what your thoughts are on what should be should be like a priority to implement. Because again, while they fall, mainly with laws, they have different meanings and have different effects.
Please repeat.
Sorry. So with the authority as a mayor for the Harrisburg office, I'm curious what ordinances, or the laws for city limits you'd be interested in implementing. Implement. I can't find the word. Um, Implementing, if you're interested in adding at all, and kind of what the focus would be if you do. As while they all are in regards of law, they all have different meanings, they all have different effects overall, if that makes sense.
Making sure legal guns, such as ghost guns, full auto guns, are off the street so law enforcement officers don't have to run into them that much compared to now.
Is he done with his responses?
I'm sure he'll let us know if he is.
Okay. I added another question once he's ready.
Alright. Due to that being said, community policing will be needed and or events to talk about it and see what law enforcement officers want as a law. That is all.
All right. And secondly, for a question, what is your thoughts on some of the organized crime around the area? I know you spoke about, coordinating with law enforcement just as I have, but what are your thoughts on actually handling it? Not necessarily in-depth answering, but kind of, you know, handling, basically using RICO or, other ways to abolish certain groups. I won't mention one, but it does start with a C and ends with I.
Talk to DCC about getting a task force with departments to take these mafia/gangs down. Go after one at a time, which worked well with DCSO. DCSO took one member, not gonna say his name, and it worked well as we did not have to go into a firefight with semi-autos. That is all. Officer, do you have any questions for your opponent? Storm, any more questions?
Likely no. I do have a question for you guys. Will I be able to make a minor statement before we leave?
Yeah, you may.
Awesome.
If there is no more questions to be asked, if you would like to quickly make that statement, then go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I appreciate it. I do want to make it clear. Like I have stated, I do want to focus on mostly minor and stuff I can't even talk. Stuff that people have concerns about that isn't really being heard. Uh, you know, while that is one of my main goals, I will go around that as well to focus on major areas such as crime. I don't want to restrict guns. I want to make that very clear. A lot of people want to believe that apparently. I do believe that we should at least survey, people who have committed crimes in the past in order to restrict them in a way so that they don't intentionally use it for that. But I think we should be able to, be able to have a gun if we need a gun or want it. But I do want to appreciate a lot of people who supported me and those who also, whether they support me or not, came out and talked with me these past few days. Just give me their answers that were absolutely genuine. I actually had this one trooper who spent almost 10 minutes more than most explaining all the things that he's seen and the things that he was really concerned about. I was really grateful to be able to actually take the opportunity, talk with these people, and actually learn what they want. It's not always just, major things. And I hope to prove to everyone, we don't have to go for the bigger fishes. Small ones will always do as long as we get them. I know it's weird saying people are going to make fun of me, but it's something. That's all. Thank you.
All right, we're going to extend the same statement offered to candidate candidate Robert. Would you like to make a final statement?
Unfortunately, he is notified this currently that his game and VC have both frozen on him, so we are going to move on. So at this time, I want to thank both candidates for showing up. Sadly, our third candidate was a no-show, but he is still eligible to be in the election if anyone chooses to vote for him. So how this will work, the moment that the election is announced, soon the board will update to include all three candidates. Basically, all you have to do is join this game once again. You will go to the board that's basically you saw out front. You click on the candidate that you choose. You hit select, and then bottom right it will hit say confirm. It's pretty simple. We will know if your vote goes through. To be eligible to vote, you must have an account that I believe is at least 30 days old. You must have at least 2 friends. We just have a lot of procedures to make sure you're not using alt accounts and stuff. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for coming out. If any game staff want to start up a server session poll, you guys are free to do so. So yeah, if you have any questions right now, in-game chat is still going to be disabled, but you are able to ask candidates questions in chat, in the stage event chat, and do whatever you want.